Good morning. We're back to Monday and we are back in the sewing section of my studio. And this morning I want to talk about pressing. So I've pulled a couple of towels out of the dryer. So I have washed and dried these. When I wash them in hot water and I dry them on high heat in the dryer till they're completely dry. And then I'll pull them out of my washing machine or my dryer. Now, of course, before I wash them, I'm going to sew a line, and I just use a straight stitch, and I sew a line at each end of each towel. So you should see two lines there around that contrast thread. That contrast thread marks the end of one towel and the beginning of the next. And then I've got another line sewn at the far end. Now, pressing is really important. And right now I'm just going to talk about pressing, and then in a minute I'll switch the camera around so you can actually see what's happening as I press. But right now, pressing is about putting the iron directly on your towel and letting it sit. See, no hands, it's just sitting on there. I can press down with some weight as well. Now, as I press, what's happening is the fibers are getting steamed, so they're getting a little bit moist, and they are getting warm, and that warmth and that moisture allows the fibers to sort of meld together, so that when I then trim my ends, they don't keep unraveling as every time they get washed. So I'm just pressing my iron on. I've heard anywhere from 10 seconds up to 30 seconds. I've never been brave enough to do the 30 seconds. I'm not even sure I really do the 10 seconds. But I am going to actually press. You don't want to slide your iron back and forth across your towels, because what that's going to do is it's going to distort your warp. So instead of having those nice straight lines that you have in your towels, it would go more like this, and that's going to be particularly noticeable if you're doing stripes in your towel. So my iron has an auto shut off, so I have to keep lifting it up so that it knows I'm actually still using it. And I've got it at the highest setting, the cotton linen setting. I don't know if you could just hear the steam coming out there. I do straighten out my edges a little bit, so I might use my fingers to just sort of rake things along. It's a way that you can sort of fix up your edges too if they've drawn in just a little bit. In this particular towel, because I've got some patterning along with a little bit of plain weave, the patterning areas sometimes draw in a little bit more than the plain weave, and so I can just use my fingers to ease that out. Now, as I'm pressing, I'm going to grab my super sharp scissors, and I'm going to press, or I'm going to clip right up against the towel, as close as I can get there. And then I will press again the area where I just clipped. There's raw edges there, just to get those fully meshed into my towel so they don't come undone. Now, I talked in my newsletter this week a little bit about how weaving is good for your brain. I'm not sure that this part of the weaving is, I think this isn't really brain work. I do a lot of audiobooks or podcasts while I'm doing pressing, just to keep me doing the pressing and not skimping out on the pressing time. But your brain really is activated when you're weaving. I read a few peer-reviewed studies about how weaving impacts your brain. And it really does a lot of the same things that a Sudoku does. So it engages your mental processes, your memory, problem solving, all sorts of predictive skills. So it's really great for your brain. So feel when you're weaving, you can feel like you're doing something good for yourself. I keep trying to convince myself that it's good physical activity too, because there's consistent movement, but I haven't found anything to back me up on that. So if you've got some peer-reviewed studies that back me up on that, I'd love to hear them. You can see the actual pattern here. So this area has been pressed, this has started being pressed, and this has not been pressed at all. So I'm just going to put my iron right on. You can see that it's at the linen cotton setting. You should be able to see that steam coming out of there. And let's see what happens when I just move it on to here. So pay attention to what's going on right here. And I'm just going to press my iron on there. I am pressing down. I mean, it is called pressing, so I am actually adding a little weight to the iron. But I am curious if anybody has one of those lift up steam things. I would, you know, the flat plates where you put your fabric in and you lay it down and it presses it. I'd love to know how that works for you. Now if you look here, you can see that this is flattened out and it looks much better than it did before I pressed it. So as I'm just letting the iron rest on there, I'm just going to come and I'm going to clip these ends super close, right flush with the fabric. And then I'm going to come back with my iron and just put it on those spots. Sometimes the fabric is a little hot to touch after I've pressed it. I know it doesn't look like I'm doing this very methodically, but really what I'm trying to do now, I've pressed the area, now I'm pressing where I want to clip ends. So that's essentially how pressing works. When I'm done, I'm going to press both sides just like that, just like I'm showing you. Sometimes in my dryer it just seems to fold right up at the edges, so paying special attention there. That's hot, so it's being pressed. And I usually have to fill the steam reservoir in my iron several times when I'm pressing. So earlier this weekend I asked what color you thought I should use on the weft for the second towel, and I couldn't decide which color to use, so I used them all. So this is the pattern I'm going to be working on writing this week. I may or may not have it out by the weekend, I'm not quite sure yet. But I thought I'll just do all the colors, and then when I write the pattern, you'll be able to see which color you like best. So there's the whole towel there. And just note, this is the right side of the towel. And of course the floats are reversed on the wrong side. So I think it's still pretty on the wrong side as well. But I definitely love this side. So there's a little lesson in pressing, and I hope you learn from it.